Welcome to Network Marketing Pro. My name is Eric Worre, and today I'm here with Susan Sly. Susan, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's
My
great to
pleasure.
be here.
My pleasure. Susan is my rock star friend. She lives in Arizona. She has an amazing family, and she's an athlete, she's a mom, she's an entrepreneur, she's an author, she's a speaker. She's the do-it-all woman. She's probably a good cook, too. Are you a good cook?
It depends. I'm a vegan, so
You're a vegan cook.
Yeah.
I mean,
although
come on.
I did make ribeyes the other day. Chris said they were really good.
Really good,
Yeah.
but you just ignored them.
I ignored them.
Yeah. But Boston Marathon runner. She does it all, and she earns $1 million a year or more in network marketing. Quite a bit more, yeah. How much more? What was your best year?
Two.
2 million. Okay, so 2 million US dollars in a single year.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. I'm just getting started.
It's okay. For your potential, it's okay. Talk to me about, prior to network marketing, what was your life like?
It's a great question. I mean, much like you, Eric, I grew up with this sense that there was something out there other than a 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. And I was raised by, God bless him, my single Chinese dad and my grandma. And they taught me at a very early age to be very entrepreneurial, industrial. So I always had something going, whether it was a paper route or a side business or something. And
do you think they taught that to you? Do you think you were just entrepreneurial?
I think it was definitely learned. I'm a big believer in environment, and they own together a Chinese restaurant. So I grew up folding napkins. I make mean egg rolls, by the way, just an FYI. And for me, I have a friend who has this term psychologically unemployable. I knew very early on I was. I graduated college. I did a 4-year degree in 3 years at 19, and I went into the health and fitness industry. I bought my first health club when I was 24 years old. Didn't know what I was doing. I thought, if I know how to sell and I can teach fitness, that's all I need to know. Mm-hmm. But not long after that, my health began to go on the decline. And it's interesting because one of the things that I teach, especially as more and more people are talking about the U economy and being in business for themselves, when it comes to network marketing, either we need network marketing or network marketing needs us. And that was the first time I was introduced. It wasn't the right time for me, and I didn't learn. I was kind of closed. And then I went back into the corporate world. That was like baptism by fire. I was in professional sales. I had sales quotas that were delivered every month. And you know what happens when you have a sales quota? Right. You make it. They raise it. So that's what happened.
Or they cut your territory or cut your commissions or something.
There's always a way.
Yeah.
And I realized that the skills that I had there would be very conducive to network marketing. And one of my clients, 8 months, just hammered and hammered. I saw her twice a week, and finally I relented and I went to Starbucks with her, and she drew numbers on a napkin, and I went, fine. And that was the beginning of it. And
when was this?
And that was back in 2000.
2000. So 16 years ago. We're filming this in 2016.
Yeah.
So 16 years ago, you get introduced, and somebody draws it out on a napkin, and you say, all right, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
So what happens?
I started, really, my background is as a holistic nutritionist, where I trained in Canada and personal trainer. So obviously, I was great at sharing products. The person who introduced me, Deborah, I thank God for her every day. She early on had me reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, all of the books. And I still wasn't quite getting it. I had it more like a work mentality. So if I kept just sharing the products, eventually I would make the kind of money I was seeing people make in the magazines. And that didn't happen. And I also sort of fell out of love with that particular product line. And I think for most of our friends who are in this profession and do it professionally and make significant income, they have to learn all the things not to do. So we went to a startup company, and it was like the Wild West. And I was out every night doing presentations. Chris thought I was insane. I started
Chris, your husband.
Yeah. I started to grow a group in the Philippines. I'd be doing calls at 3 a.m. My kids were 5 and 1, so I could, deal with the time zones. This was back before the days of Skype and calling plans. So we were getting like $1,000 phone bills. Chris was ready to divorce me. And, we did open recruiting calls, and someone one night got on the call. They called for open testimonials. The person said that product cured her arthritis. There was an FTC or FDA auditor on there. The company was shut down, slapped with a fine, and the company closed. I said, I'm done. I am never doing network marketing again, because I worked so hard, but it was all swept out. And what a great lesson, and especially in the regulatory environment we're in now. And I thank God for that lesson, because, I'm not the one who made the claim, but I was on the call where the claim was made. So,
right.
Yeah.
So this happens, and you kind of, you wander through the network marketing landscape. You have this this startup, and everybody's like, I can always make a case for a startup for a certain kind of person. I can make a case for a young company and for a certain kind of person. I can make a case for a mature or a very stable old, giant. I can make a case for all of them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people talk about, well, this is better and this is better, and I understand their perspective. They're trying to paint their picture of wherever that is the best. Yeah. But I can make a case for all of them. Now, you find the company that you're working with today, and how long ago was that?
Well, when that other company closed, and I am so grateful, because I learned so much, like so many good things. We hear in the profession the lesson about apathy and deception and rejection. That I learned that there. I learned, discipline, daily methods of operation, and so many great things. And I'm very indebted. That company relaunched, and some of those people are there today, and I'm so thankful to them for mentoring me. It was about 3 weeks, and I was literally on the sofa, and I had been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease in 2000, so my health was kind of precarious, and I was trying to figure out what to do. I was working part-time for a charity, and Chris is an accountant, and we were fighting a lot. If anyone's watching this, money is the number one cause of divorce, and Avery would get invited to a birthday party, and Chris and I would fight because we couldn't afford the present for the child. And then my phone starts ringing about this new company, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And the other thing I want everyone to know is that persistence is probably one of the most important qualities. And the person who called me was the person who had introduced me to the past two companies. She called me 21 times. And, I'm just going to up the gradient and be raw and real, because your viewers expect that. But when she called me, I was planning to commit suicide. And I was in a lot of pain mentally. It wasn't just because my company had closed, but I was really hopeless. And there I was at 29 years old and going, I feel like my life is over. And a lot of the things I had done, being a professional triathlete, and a lot of my accomplishments felt like they were in the past. And if this person didn't keep calling and call block her number. So the 21st phone call, she call blocks the number, and I pick it up, and she says, hi. And I went, oh, good Lord, no.
You're not ready for this, right?
No. And, but I looked at her website, I looked at her products, and I was very impressed. And I said, okay, what if this is what I've been praying for, and I don't at least give it a try? And we were on a tight budget. We were about $32,000 a year, living in this small house in Canada. And, the products were priced in US dollars. Back in those days, it was about 60 cents on the dollar. So, basically about 35% more. And we took a leap of faith. We ordered the products. I started, just to just feel better overall. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I had always said, and I love what you said, because there are great companies out there. And, I have friends in this profession, other companies, and we agree. We're not here to pilfer other people's teams. That there are some fundamentals that make great companies. And if you're in a company and you have legitimate products, that's one of the things very important, that you have great leadership in your corporate team. So I knew if network marketing was going to work for me, I had to look at it like a business valuation. And that particular company met all those things. And then Chris gave me the ultimatum. He said, this has to be your last company. And I said,
enough already.
Enough already. No more $1,000 phone bills. This was before iPhones and everything else, Zoom meetings. And so I had to treat it like a business. And so I set aside hours of operation. My son was not in school yet. My daughter was. It was in 2003.
2003, okay.
Yeah. So I would get up early in the morning, get out for a workout, come back, take my son to my mother-in-law's, I'd take my daughter to school, then I'd go to my office, and on my lunch break, I wouldn't take lunch. I would email, because we didn't have anything else then, I'd email friends and say, hey, are you around later to catch up? Then I'd, go pick up the kids, then I'd make dinner, after school programs, do all that stuff. And then when Chris would come home, I'd get the kids in bed, and then from 8 to 10, Monday through Thursday. And he had said to me, this can't compromise our family. And I said to him, and for the viewers who know me, I'm a pretty strong person. And I said, give me 7 years. And he said, why 7 years? I said, it took you 7 years to become a chartered accountant. I want 7 years to become a professional network marketer. So,
and he said?
Well,
a reluctant okay?
Yeah, a reluctant okay.
Yeah.
But I knew I was under the microscope.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you have the pressure's on. A lot of different reasons. You got a new lease on life. You got a new purpose, new drive. So what happens that first year, that 2003 to 2004?
I set up an office in my son's bedroom, and for all of the viewers, he had one of those Thomas the Tank Engine beds. And so I took a desk of my grandmother's, and I had this old Dell computer. Remember the computers? And they're so big and so noisy, like they're so big you could like drive it and mow your lawn. So I had one of those. And we all need a why, and we hear this, and I don't want anyone to think that needing a why is something glib. Oh, you need a why that makes you cry. No, you physically need something, because...
When you say that, you're talking about the reasons. What are the reasons that you're doing this?
Exactly, and they have to be tangible.
If they're strong and tangible, then they'll pull you through the obstacle.
And I want people in our profession, I'm so adamant about this, to stop trying to recruit people and go, yes, you're going to make $1 million a year. Like, I want us all to link arms as professionals and say, let's talk about, Eric, if this could do anything for you, I want you to think of the bill you have right now that makes you insane. What if it could pay that? Like, let's start keeping it real in our profession. So for me, it was sending Avery to a good school. Avery had been labeled as gifted. I couldn't afford the private school. It was $10,000. You could pay it monthly. I said, that's my first goal. So I order all of the materials for this school. And Chris is going, we can't afford to send her there. And I was like, yes, we will send her there. And so what I did every morning when I was out running, I visualized driving up the laneway to the school. I had the application, I had the VHS cassette. And when I was making calls in that little room, I was looking at those pictures. And was I an overnight success? No. I made a list of 75 people, 3 signed up. 1 was my husband. I signed him up without him knowing. So, anyway, it's out there. And I had to face that. And it wasn't like I had this big network marketing team to bring in.
Right, true.
And I thought, with my background, all of my friends are going to say
They'll
yes.
all immediately say yes.
No. There was a lot of hustle. There were a lot of like wall kicking moments. I'm not going to kid you, but I'm very grateful that I had to go through that.
Sure.
Because I can't relate to a new person. I don't care what company you're in. If you see me wherever, airport or wherever, and stop me and ask me for advice, I'm going to say to you, you're going to have to go through certain lessons, probably 10 certain things you have to go through to get your armor on.
Yep.
And I went through all of them multiple times in 3 different companies.
So what happens that first year? How much you make?
My first full year, I made $50,000.
Okay. So not bad. He's making 32. You made 50.
Yeah.
So you have some expenses. So maybe you're about the same.
Yeah, and every time I got a commission email, I'd forward it to him.
Of course.
So my first check was $7. And I don't have one of those stories like, oh, my first check was, all this money. It was $7. And so Chris looks at me, he's like, are you kidding? Why are you so excited? But it was like you said, I had this new lease on life, this new passion, this new purpose. And I said, baby, there are going to be multiple zeros at the end of that. And I just kept on going. And then, I had one, it was like $50. I remember the first week I made as much as he made in a week. That was my favorite email to send.
Of course.
And so finally I said to him, at some point I'm going to pay more in taxes than you make. What will it take for you to come home? And he said, well, when you get to $250,000 a year, I'll come home. And
the $32,000 a year guy is saying 250 is the number.
He's an accountant, Eric.
Like,
you know him, you know. So I said, fine. I love a challenge, bring it on. And so eventually I was able to bring him home. And for the viewers watching, and I write a lot about this, sometimes there can be some shock for the person coming home. And Chris did. He freaked out a bit, and he ended up going back into the corporate workforce. I'm really proud of him. He worked on a joint venture with the U.S. government for the base in Kandahar. Then he came home again. Then he went back to work again as CFO of a drug company. I said, enough's enough. How much for you to actually come home? And he's like, $750. I'm like, okay, fine. I said, but I want a contract.
Wow.
If you say it, like it's it, you're done. So, for anyone watching, I think the most important lesson there is just really have this open dialogue with your partner. But a lot of times there's collateral damage when people come into network marketing because they think, oh, if I don't make the calls or I don't do, what Eric's saying in the book, I'm only affecting myself. You're not. You're affecting every person who's watching you because they're looking at you. And are you an amateur? Are you a professional? And I knew I had to prove to Chris that I was going to treat this like a profession, just as seriously as I would anything else. And that's what I did. And it's wonderful to talk about money, but there's a lot of sweat equity behind that. I'm not gonna kid you.
So, year one's 50,000. Year two, about how much?
180.
180.
Yeah.
So you have this, that's a pretty serious move. Your husband's still not convinced.
He's protective.
Yes. So he's just like, we'll see if it lasts.
Yeah.
And year three was?
About 450.
About 450.
Yeah.
So he's still not ready. He's going in and out.
Yeah.
And then year four?
Around 680.
680. So he's still like, it's fly-by-night thing. We're not quite so sure. Now you've now earned more than he's going to earn in most of his life.
Yeah.
Right? Over the course of four or 5 years.
Yeah.
Then it just continues to progress?
It did. And
does it go up every year? Has it ever gone down?
Interestingly enough, two key things. So Chris used to send me, and there's a huge difference between professional network marketing and things like muffin clubs. But what Chris would do is he would literally
What's a muffin club?
It's when people put money in the investments, much like a Bernie Madoff kind of scandal.
Oh, like a Ponzi thing?
Yeah. And so Chris used to send me every article about that and be like, network marketing, you're going to get arrested. So I had to have a thick skin around this.
And say, no, you're completely miscategorizing what we do.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things for me was I always wanted to introduce him to professionals, engineers, doctors, lawyers who were doing this as a profession. I remember taking him to a meeting.
How much of your mission was to convert this skeptic?
Oh, probably 99. No, just kidding. I wouldn't say it was my initial mission was to
pay for the school, and you achieved that goal.
I did.
Obviously, yes.
The next year, and I was still driving my gold Toyota Camry, but I proudly drove her up the lane to that school. And going on, did my income grow every year? No, I've had a couple of flat years. The recession was interesting. I had said to my entire team and anyone who would listen from my soapbox, there's a recession coming. During that time, you're going to have to work 30% harder. But if you do, on the other side of that, you will be rewarded 30% more. So what happened with my team is the ones who worked actually came out of the recession and they did well. They went into momentum, but as you say, a lot of them went into a success coma. And even for myself, 1 year we had a lot of different things going on in our life and my income was flat. But my biggest thing for me is not necessarily, I know it looks really great for someone to go, oh yes, I had this year and then I had my income, quadrupled. For me, what I'm more interested in is building the house on the rock, not on the sand. So there are some years where it looks like...
It is a marathon.
Yeah, exactly.
There's sprints involved. You're going to have to do sprint here, but it's a long-term, you're building an empire.
Exactly.
And some people get the impression, because you've been doing this for a while now, the impression that you can build it once and that's it. You're done.
No.
It's like, I went to, you ever been to Jerusalem?
Not yet, no.
You have to go. It's really cool. And when you go, take a tour. I grew up in a Christian family, so all the stories, everything, you get to see where these stories happen. So the interesting thing with our guide is we were walking around, these walls around Jerusalem are amazing. But some of them are brand new. Some of them are older, some of them are really old. And the guide told us that the walls around Jerusalem were rebuilt 17 times. 17 times. So you think you could just build the walls around the city and you're done. Nope. That wall is going to crumble, you have to rebuild. That wall is going to crumble, you have to rebuild. And the only part of that entire wall around Jerusalem is the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall they call it, where people pray. That's the only original one. So as you build a team and you build your organization, you're going to have some in your group that are part of that Western Wall, 13 years ago. And then some came and went and disappeared, and you had to rebuild and rebuild and rebuild. And guess what? 17 isn't going to be it for the rest of the history.
Nope.
There's going to be others. There's going to be other situations. There's nothing permanent. We're always adapting. We're always rebuilding pieces. We're always growing other pieces. We're stabilizing other pieces. So people have this impression: you build a company once and it's over. Our buddy Harvey McKay, he on his wall in his office, the mission statement. You know what it is?
No.
To be in business forever. That's an interesting mission statement.
Yeah.
Because think about what has to happen to do that. To have your distributorship producing for forever. What has to happen for that for that to exist? A lot of things.
Absolutely. Legacy, taking your ego out of the equation. There are times in my week where it's a lot of fortification. Like, one thing I'll do is I'll plan the call schedule. We do these open calls for 6 months in advance. And then the flyer goes to a graphic designer, and I've got to book all the calls. And is it as seductive as, she rank advanced that week?
Right.
But that's a fortification thing. And I'm not hiding in management mode. I just rank advanced not that long ago.
Sure.
And then it's time to fortify you. When you have waves of new people coming in, if people really read Go Pro and they do a proper 90-day game plan, which I did when I started my business, you've got all these new people. You're not just going to go sponsor a whole bunch of more people and it's like spaghetti against the wall. And, oh my gosh, please, Lord, let some of it stick. Right. You've got to now go fortify the people, train them up, and then go out and do it again and again and again.
Yeah, again and again. One thing that's interesting to me is different types of personalities can succeed in our business. Lots of different types.
Yeah.
I'm not a discipline structure type of guy. I'm more of an artist. I'm more rebellious to structure. If there's something that I have to do by a certain time, I'm usually a little rebellious around it, even on a subconscious level. Yeah. So hours, structures, times, everything exactly laid out. I drive people who work for me crazy because they want to have more structure than I have. You are opposite.
Yeah.
You thrive in structure. I mean, your life is so structured. And I think it's part of the reason why you accomplish so much between your athletic endeavors, your kid stuff, your business, your marriage, your travels, your everything else. Talk about how you use structure as a tool.
For sure. I'm growing up being raised by my grandmother. I mean, a traditional Chinese grandmother, there's a lot that goes into that statement right there. But I watched her get up every morning at 5 a.m. Then she'd review all the sales in the restaurant from the night before. And her day was planned down to the minute, even the 15-minute nap she took in the afternoon. It was like meticulous. And I watched this. And then when I was really overweight as a kid, and I remember,
I can't imagine this.
I've
seen pictures, and it's crazy.
I was a women's size 14 when I was 10, and I remember the nurse saying to me, "You weigh more than I do." And we used to have these fitness tests in Canada. I couldn't do a push-up or a sit-up or anything. And I remember one day I woke up and I said, "I'm going to run today." And I was 11 years old and I started running. And then I eventually went into a higher level of track, and my whole day was structured. Get up, I'd run my paper route in the morning. It was about 6 miles long. And oh my gosh, on Saturday, that thing was a heavy paper route. So I do that, everything. And then that structure for me, and I think if anyone's watching, prior to living with my dad and my grandmother, I lived in a very unstable home. We had so little money, Eric. I once went to the grocery store with Monopoly money to try and buy food. And not a lot of people know that. And so for me...
What did the store say?
The clerk laughed at me. And then an older one came over and actually gave me, I had a loaf of Wonder Bread, actually. She gave it to me. But structure for me was almost like a catharsis. And when I was first getting into network marketing, I would get on the old cutting edge media calls on Thursday nights.
Sure.
Do you remember those? Doug Firebot, Jeff Combs, and all these guys, Todd Falcone, I'd listen to them. And a lot of the common theme was about organization, but I wasn't hearing a lot of moms teach about it, which was interesting. And then when I had the privilege to share the stage on a few occasions with Jim Rohn while he was still alive, and you spent a lot of time with Jim. Jim was, don't start the day before you end the day. Don't start the week before you end the week. And I took it all to heart.
And what he meant by that is make sure you prepare.
Exactly.
Prepare before you start.
And I took it literally. And so from there, I would say one of the secrets to my success in network marketing is just that I'm very highly organized. So I always plan my day the night before. I teach everyone. Now, these days with social media. So if I was going to, for example, say connect with someone, I'll call them John, I'm going to Google him the night before. I'm going to look at his Facebook profile. Because if John's uncle has just died, I'm not going to call him. See, we didn't have that luxury before. I remember I had this guy on my lead list. I was calling him back in the old days of, we'd get leads in Excel spreadsheets, like 400 at a time. And his wife picked up and I said, we had an appointment. I was so angry. And she was crying. She's like, he died this morning.
Oh boy.
So we have it so much easier.
Ouch.
I used to call out of the white pages when I had no money for leads. Now, Toronto white pages, that was a good chunk of leads right there.
Yeah.
But I think, you have to, you look at it, and if you really want this business, whether you have 2 hours a day, your kids can't be your excuse. They have to be your reason why.
Sure.
And I don't have every week I've got, my youngest is 7, my 23-year-old is about to have a baby. I've got the whole range. My son is on the autism spectrum. We don't use a nanny. I don't have 80 hours a week. Richard Blissbrook said to me, if I had 5 kids, I'd have 5 nannies.
Yeah, right.
But Chris and I make it work. So I have to be organized. I don't do three-way calls that take an hour each. When people want to do a call with me, they submit a Google form. I need to know who, what, why, where, and when. I record every call. Last 13 years, I have notebooks, everything.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm just so the opposite. So here's the lesson. The lesson is, whatever your personality, you find a way to make it work. In my personality, I found a way to make it work. In her personality, in her situation, she found a way to make it work. Don't think you have to be a certain type in order to be able to do this. But learn from the people who do it like you would like to do it.
And surround yourself with people. If you're disorganized and you're at the level, hire an assistant, someone to keep you on track. And then I see a lot of people in our profession, they start to make money and they haven't recorded things, and then suddenly, taxes, everything else. This is not, Eric is being modest. He would say he's disorganized, but he actually is surrounded by people who are highly organized.
I am,
and
but
Eric
I'm not organized.
You're disciplined, though.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. I do more pondering and thinking and strategizing internally than I do structure. It would drive you batty. If you had to live in how I manage my life for a week, you would absolutely be at your wit's end.
Thank God for Marina.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Marina's a gift from God, my wife. But anyway, so here's what I'd like you to do. You know our network marketing pro community. This audience. They want this. They want to have success. They want to achieve. They're listening to this to try and pick up clues and ideas and inspiration and encouragement. What I'd like you to do is look into that camera right over there, and I'd like you to give them some advice, just like you're sitting in their living room with them, and they're looking for success, and they're looking to you to get that spark. What advice do you have for them?
For sure. I would say first and foremost, know that this is a worthwhile profession, just like becoming a doctor or a lawyer, an accountant, an engineer. This is a profession and you've got to treat it like such. One of my favorite things to tell people is don't expect 7-figure results on 10-cent habits. And you've got to have the habits, and the habits, getting the habits, are painful. I want you to go ahead and write this down. S like Sam, A like Alpha, and R like Reginald. So a great friend of mine who's been in the profession for a long time taught me this, and I hope it's valuable to you. The R stands for result. What result do you want to create?
S-A-A-R?
S-A-A-R.
Okay.
And the result, so what result do you want to create for yourself in the next year? And I love what Tony Robbins says. People will often set goals that are too big for 1 year, but too small for 5 years. So keep it real. The biggest thing we can do for our profession right now is keep it real. So if for you, you have a child who needs to go to school, or you want to pull back from your job and just work part-time, pick a number. Now, then the S stands for skills. Your skills have to match that result. When Eric was building in network marketing, he had to learn the skills to get the results that he ended up achieving. And we have, and in GoPro, Eric talks about this, the fundamental skills. Can you share your story? Can you book an appointment? Can you do a follow-up? You know, those are fundamental skills. Can you recruit someone, handle objections, launch a new associate, get people to events? It's not rocket science, and guys, I know it's not that glamorous, but those are the fundamental skills. The A stands for activities. Let's say you have the skills, but you're not doing the activities, you're not going to get the results. Your activities have to match the result you're seeking. If you want 6 figures, you have to have 6-figure activities. And then the next A stands for attitude. We will never make more money than the ceiling of our attitude. I'm going to say that again. We will never make more money than the ceiling of our attitude. Eric and I have a good friend who's a beautiful mentor, Harvey McKay. And Eric has, you know, you hear going from the outhouse to the penthouse. Eric has had his share of struggles, and that's why I have so much respect for you. And, you know, even for myself, my low point was living on my brother-in-law's sofa as a single mom, you know, with very critical health. And I knew that to increase my income, I had to elevate my attitude. And one of the easiest ways to do that are to watch interviews like this with people who've produced, who've overcome challenges. Pick up on those nuances of things like gratitude and appreciation for the difficult times. And the last thing I'll say is, you may be sitting there and going, hey, Susan, you know, what, you don't know, I'm going through a tough time and my partner's being critical and I've got this and this and I feel like quitting. Guess what? Every person I know, and I can name names, who are top income earners at any company, have been where you're at. And here's the difference. Leadership, my friends, is forged in the flame of challenge. You will not be a leader until you come out of the challenge. And I love you and I appreciate you. And the next time I see you at an event, come up, give me a hug or a high five, and let me know that you've stuck it out. Because as one of my mentors says, you're never going to ever fail in network marketing as long as you don't quit.
Susan, congratulations.
Thank you.
On your success. I know you're just getting warmed up.
I am.
Yeah, this is, you haven't reached the destination yet. There's a lot left to do. And thank you for your contribution, not only inside the Network Marketing Pro community, but inside of your team and inside of the profession around the world. Together we're doing important work.
Yeah, and thank you for everything you do. And thank you for
pleasure.
being one of my great mentors and friends and someone I can always count on. So
My pleasure.
Love you, my brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, hope you got value from this. Our wish for you is that you decide to become a network marketing professional, that you decide to go pro, because it is a stone cold fact. We do have a better way. Now let's go tell the world. Everybody have an amazing day, have an awesome week, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.